Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Special Needs Community Live TV show. Here on the show, we focus on conversations that matter in the special needs and disabilities world. Our conversations focus on challenges as well as the wins that families and children experience in dealing with different. And along the way, we hope to inspire you, to encourage, and to provide useful and helpful information. We invite you to join us and to share your challenges, your inspirations, and help us raise awareness with dealing with different. So I'm your host, Brigetti Lambanda, and I'm a Global Goodwill Ambassador, and I'm a live stream host and producer of this show. And I help brands and networks and social good communities create great digital storytelling experiences. My amazing co-host is Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She's an award-winning author of the Poolicious children's book series. She's currently working on another book as well as writing a movie screenplay. She's a wife and a mother of three beautiful inspirations. But more importantly, for today's show, Mary is also a special needs and disability advocate, and she lives in Nashville in the USA, and I'm in Cape Town in South Africa. So, welcome to the show, Mary.
Hi, Brigetti. How are you?
I'm very well, and you?
Good, very well. Absolutely. We're ready to
I'm
talk about we're ready to kind of talk about what we did last week and kind of go forward from there. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to disabilities and rights, parents' rights, children's rights. I mean, we could probably do quite a few shows on this because there really is a lot of information. It's
yeah.
really hard to compact it.
So just for those of you that's joining and that didn't watch last week's show, we spoke last week about in the previous episode about the individualized education program, which is also referred to as an IEP, and this is a document or a program that's developed for a child that needs specialized or individual in education. And I think the important part about it is that it's a team effort, and so today we're going to discuss what are parents' rights in that process. So, Mary, you've got personal experience in this, and so you bring a lot of value to the conversation, which we are all very, very thankful for. So, would you like to kick off the conversation with talking a little bit about what parents' rights are in regards to having a written notice for the meeting so that we know it's not just a slapdash thing that you just kind of rock up for by accident.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, the individual, when a child needs an IEP, we should kind of explain that that can be for a child who needs anything outside the normal realm of what a classroom setting is. And it goes all the way from special needs to gifted. So there's a very wide spectrum there for children who need something other than just what they're offering, in the regular classroom setting. What we wanted to focus on is just getting that information out to parents and caregivers about what a parent needs to do and what a parent's rights are. If you are approached by the teacher, the school, or a doctor, or the pediatrician that your child needs to have testing done, you first of all need to research about this because it's very important to know, and always knowledge means power, to have that behind you. But what if it's decided that a child needs testing? You want to definitely make sure they're testing your child and doing evaluation, but not screening. So you will have a meeting to discuss this with the school, and it's called a prior written notice meeting, where you will sit down and discuss what the child's needs, what they're showing, what the child is presenting with, and then what testing would be logical to do, because there is quite a few different tests that need to be done, and it just depends on what a child, a nonverbal child would have different testing than a verbal child would. So that is what the meeting would be called the first time you would sit down and discuss what testing would be done. And a parent has, every right to know what tests will be done on their child. And if they do their research and about what testing is done for a specific thing that a child has, or you're looking at whatever disability it might be, then the parent has that right to request that test or say, hey, do you do this testing? Now, if you're in a school system that says, well, we don't do that, the next question that you need to ask, well, are you federally funded? Because if you're federally funded, then you have the ability to test my child and provide services for them. And if you don't, then you need to come up with some way to provide services for my child. And a parent actually has the legal right to say those things. So we as parents, I think one of our, you become an advocate, Brigetti, we know this, as soon as your baby's born, we're advocates, right, for our babies as soon as they come out, no matter what shape they come out in, because you have to make sure they're fed and taken care of and go to the doctor when they need to and things like that. But when a child has special needs, your advocacy goes to a different level because you're literally the voice of your child. So if you want to get the services that they need, you will have to probably push, for these things, and you need to educate yourself. And there are plenty of websites out there. Rightslaw.com is a very important one that has a plethora of information for parents and caregivers, even teachers. But it's very important to remember when approaching this whole situation, and even in meetings, to be very non-combative, to be very calm, to be very, almost like a mediator, for your child. Okay, our sole purpose is to be here for this child. It doesn't have to do with me or you or anyone else. It's what my child needs, and we all want to see everyone come together for the greater good of this child to be successful. So you have to go into meetings, and even asking for what you want for your child, you have to go in with that kind of mindset and know that you have a right to ask questions.
I think that's quite an important facet that you mentioned, because you don't want anyone's backup. You want to work towards a resolution that's best for your child. I think one doesn't want to back off when there's non-service or non-delivery of what is expected. But I like the fact that you emphasize that one has got to go in there with the right spirit, with the understanding that you want everyone involved to work together for the greater good of your child.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to say that, if a meeting, once you're in that meeting, if there's kind of a heated discussions that happen, you can ask for a break. If there's a disagreement that occurs, you can ask for a break. You can say, and you can remind people, we are here for the greater good of this child. So I know we are grown-ups. I know we can compromise. You have that right to say that. And, there's another thing that's important when you have a meeting. If you don't have an advocate with you and you're a parent that's representing yourself or a caregiver representing yourself, there needs to be at least 4 people in a meeting for it to be considered an actual legal, legitimate meeting. Otherwise, it's just considered a conference.
So sorry, you said 4 people.
Yeah, at least 4 people. So it needs to be you, it needs to be a principal or a vice principal or head administrator. There needs to be the counselor or the guidance counselor or a psychologist there. There needs to be the child's teacher, and there needs to be a special ed teacher there, and speech and language or OT or deaf ed.
So Mary, we are all fiercely defensive when it comes to our children. That's just what a parent is like. But yeah. If you're, I'm thinking of moms that suffer from emotional conditions, and they're not up to taking up the fight for their children by themselves. Can they take in a trusted friend to be as an ally into the meeting? Are they allowed to do that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They're allowed to do that. I would take a friend or a family member, a neighbor, somebody who can listen when you can't. It's sort of like going to the doctor and receiving a diagnosis for you or your child, and you totally zone out. It's sort of that same thing. Yeah, so it's great to have somebody there who is detached from the situation to some extent, so they can fully listen and to take notes.
And are these sessions recorded, and how are they recorded? I'm just thinking of, because sometimes you can, as a parent, obviously, it's fairly normal for us to get a little bit emotional, and sometimes one can break down. And I like that you said one can ask for a break and say, I just need 5 minutes. I need a bit of time out to just
at a meeting. And so
gather myself again. But to what extent are these meetings recorded?
okay, so you just asked the question about who gets recorded, who records in the meeting, right?
How is the meeting recorded?
Right.
And is this the kind of thing that one can do in camera, for example? Is that permissible?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if that is or not. I think that might be up to the individual. Oh goodness gracious, sorry, I didn't turn that off this morning. And that might be up to the individual county or district. But I think you can ask as a parent, can we videotape this? Can we audio record this? But there is somebody who's always there taking notes, because at the end of a meeting, those notes are read off of the highlights of that meeting, and then everyone has to sign off before an IEP is completely finished. Everyone has to sign off on it, that you're in agreement with everything that was said, everything that was written down, everything that was decided. It has to be an agreement with everyone. So you do absolutely have a right to ask, hey, can we record this? And you can take your own notes as well as you're sitting there. And that might be hard, but that would be good to have somebody with you that can take those notes.
Because sometimes, I find when you're sitting in a meeting like that, that's emotionally charged, you can sometimes kind of zone out a bit and be, just so caught up in your emotions. And sometimes you're not even able to sort of record, and you miss certain nuances and comments and things. And it's only when you go back and you look at the conversation again, you think, oh, I missed that. So that's why I'm asking about to what extent one can record these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. You have that right. But you would need to ask the school's permission and let them know. I mean, if we want this to be a very calm,
transparent.
Yeah, a very transparent, calm meeting, then I wouldn't come in with surprises unless something really bad is going on and you're feeling like you've got to defend yourself. But that definitely would lead to,
So interaction is important before the meeting to make sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone knows what the expectation is going to be at the meeting in advance.
That would be ideal, yes. And you have the right to ask for the agenda of the meeting prior to the meeting. You have to ask what the agenda is and who's going to be present. You do have that right to ask for that. Some school districts don't comply, and then you have a right to file a complaint. You have a right to file a complaint with the state school board. These are the laws. I know that I'm asking for things that are legal, and the school is not complying. And it's really sad when things get like that. But they absolutely do. It's not every state, it's not every county, but you do have pockets of it that it happens. And it's Virginia, what's really kind of mind-boggling to me is that we're all there for the good of the child. And so why is there, okay, so it's been decided this child needs to be tested. Why is there a fight? Why should there even be an argument or a discussion or a debate between the parents or the caregiver and the school system itself, or the individual school, or, not the whole district, but like that school? Why is there a debate or an argument or a resistance to helping this child? Now, what you will hear is there's not enough funding. We don't have enough money, well, then you say, well, if you're federally funded, you need to be able to, you can help my child, let's figure something out. At that point, it's a kind of back to that. Things are not going to change until parents stand up together and we complain and we make our voices heard. And it's that old saying, the squeaky wheel gets fixed. And it's really sad to think and know that sometimes we really have to do this as parents and caregivers. We have to stand up and say, this is not acceptable. This is what I want for my child, and you need to comply because that's what we're here for. And sometimes you have to do that, which is not fun at all.
I can well imagine, but sometimes, it is necessary to raise our voices just a little bit so that we are heard and we are understood. Now, for example, just to backtrack a little bit, when it comes to the difference between testing and screening, can you just very quickly tell us what the difference is between the two?
Okay, so the difference between minutes, and really you can't see everything a child does or understand everything they do in that short amount of time. So it's kind of like if I sat on the opposite side of a classroom and I watched your child, and I was given 15 minutes to watch that child, and in that 15 minutes that child did not yell out or flap their hands or rock or throw something or not respond to the teacher or show that they have an issue with writing, like maybe they have a weakness in their handwriting skills or are not able to cut with scissors. If that does not appear in that 15 minutes, imagine that the person who's doing the report has to report, well, I saw nothing that affected this child's academic ability in the classroom, they're fine. And that is totally the opposite of what's happening. So an evaluation, on the other hand, usually incurs taking a child out of the classroom and then testing for several hours, sometimes over a period of, it depends on the age of the child. Of course, you can't have a little child sit there for an hour and test. They have to break everything up. So they are given, there is a 6-week process. They have 90 days actually to, or 60 days, excuse me, to finish all that up. To do all the testing and get the results back and everything. So they have a period of time they could do that in. And it is a long period of time to wait, but can you see what I'm talking about? There's a significant difference in the amount of time to watch a child. You can have a child who's got a special need of some sort or displaying certain behaviors. And I mean, I know from my own experience, I can go all day and not show it. And then the next day,
Right.
It's happening all day long. So really to get a good picture and view of that child, they need that longer amount of testing and being able to evaluate a child. And then the teacher has to fill out paperwork. I think we discussed this before, but the teacher has to fill out a questionnaire. Parents have to fill out questionnaires. So they get a whole view of the child. What is happening at home? What are the parents seeing? What is happening in the classroom? What is the teacher seeing? And then what am I seeing as the evaluator? Does everything match up? And most of the time, some of the time, you're going to have where that evaluation a parent does is going to look different than the teacher, because we know how kids are, right? They're on their best behavior at school, and then when they come home, they just let it all go.
Right.
Their boundaries are different, so they feel like, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do this, but at school I have to watch myself. And the other thing is when kids are holding it together all day long at school. It's like keeping a glass full of water in the same little tiny area, and they come home and that water pours out and it's all over the place, so they then will let out a lot of stuff that you don't see at school. And a lot of times, I mean, I know for myself, mine is bouncing off the walls sometimes. And he's been good all day at school, and I hear nothing but good, and he goes home, he's crazy, and it's because he's been together all day. I got to be good, or I got to follow directions, So.
I can well imagine. Yes, I want to quickly say welcome to Domingos and welcome to Carlos, who's also joined us.
Hi.
So, yes, so just taking up that question of the test results that comes back. So, does a parent have a right to? What if you disagree with the test results or the screening results? Do you have the right to say, I don't accept this, I disagree with it?
Absolutely, you do. Absolutely, you do. And we just got a law passed here this past school year. A law was passed for our state that says that a parent has the right to the test results at least 24 hours prior to a meeting. We're allowed to have that. And really, you need it further out than that, because you can, when a parent sees test results, it's hard to read those and understand. You really do need to have somebody interpret those, but it gives you enough time to be able to find an advocate, because sometimes it is difficult to get one. They are not.
So Mary, sorry, just to backtrack there.
Yeah.
Can you, what if the situation happens that you arrive, then they say, well, here's your test results, and you haven't had the time to examine it, or enough time to examine it before the meeting? Can that happen, and what can you do in that case? Can you then say, well, I need an extension because I need to first examine these results?
Yeah, you would, and that happens a lot. I mean, I just went through that, and we knew that we were going to be looking at the results that day. So you do have a right, when you get into that meeting, and say, you know what, I have not had a chance to really look over these. You can ask for the opportunity to do it there in the meeting. Can I look over these with my advocate or by myself before we start, so I can kind of grasp what is being said here? But then what happens in that meeting is that you are explained, they go through everything, whether it's OT and speech, deaf ed, whatever it is that's there that they're testing. They will go over all the results for you. You get to see all your child's scores. This is the way it's supposed to be done, okay? And then at the end, they tell you whether your child qualifies or not for services. Now, you have the legal right to say, I totally disagree with what is written here, or I want to go home and I want to look all this over before I sign anything. You should never, ever, 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 ever sign if you're not happy with the results. And if you totally come to that space at the end where you are, I totally disagree with this, then you can ask for outside evaluation that is paid for by the county itself or the school.
So Mira, I just want to back up there very quickly. I've seen this happen in so many situations, and especially this can be an emotionally charged situation where people sometimes, it's like in a business meeting, they say, well, you need to sign this, and you sign it without thinking. Can you then say to them, listen, I haven't had time to really take this in, and I'm not prepared to sign this? Can they force you to sign it there and then, or do they have to give you the time to fully grasp it before you sign off on it?
Oh, legally, you have the time. They can't force you to do anything. If you're in that kind of situation where you're being forced to sign a document by a school system, then you need to call the state school board and you need to report it. And you need to report it to the county, the district office, and you need to report it to the state school board as well. And then you probably, at that point, you need to get legal help. You need to hire a lawyer. An advocate lawyer is what you need at that point. Instead of just an advocate, you need to have that advocate lawyer part to it, because your rights have been completely violated. They can't force you to do anything. But you hear stories like that, Virginia, which is really sad. You hear. Go ahead.
So on that point, Mary, what if you are not in a financial position to afford an attorney, which you clearly need in this situation?
Right.
If I'm the parent and I can't afford an attorney, what are my options?
Well, you can call. You can look up in whatever city you live in, wherever you are. You can. I would Google or get online and look for special needs and disability offices, nonprofits or government offices. And then you need to call and ask, where can I get an advocate lawyer or legal help? Because I can't afford it right now. So where is that help for free? And they will have that information for you, because there are advocate lawyers who do pro bono work. And I think they do so many cases a year, just like any lawyer does, or some lawyers, right? Not all lawyers do pro bono cases, but they usually will do so many a year, or they can lead you to, somebody or a legal service that's there available. At least I know that's how it works where I am. We have the ARC of Tennessee, we have Tennessee Disability Rights we have Tennessee Family Voices, we have Autism Tennessee. There's quite a few different. We have STEPS. There's all these different programs that we have here to help families with this stuff and to guide them in the right direction. Now, I told you before, but I don't know if I said it on here. About 5 years ago, I got certified to do advocacy work, because I saw that I needed to do that, especially what happened after with my daughter. So what happens is every once in a while in that group, we get they will send a message looking for an advocate in a certain county. Can somebody help with this? This family has called in. This is the situation. They need help. Can you help? So that they can call, parents can, you just have to do the research and find it. Since I'm not in every county and I don't have that information, I would say research and Google, or Google, because Google, it has everything, right? If you're researching online.
Yes, just about everything.
You can Google anything, yes. So, but that information is out there, and they can always go to rightslaw.com, which is WRIGHTS law.com. And it has so much information on there for the rights of parents and caregivers, whoever is dealing with the child. There's so much information there. I mean, I've used it
Are there
myself.
support groups, Mary? Are there support groups for parents?
You know what? There should be in every in every city. You would hope that there are. In every city that I know of, yes, there are support groups. And actually, there are several. There are some Facebook groups. Like we have one here local that has over 400 families in, and then we have one that's more for the entire state. And then there's one about cameras in classrooms. And I think that goes around the United States, but that mostly reports about abuse cases. So you're not going to find the information you need there. That's going to be just basically about abuse cases. And there's plenty of those, unfortunately. So there was just one recently. Yes, here.
I think, what I'd like to say to parents is, if there isn't a support group where you are, start one. Because chances are, if there isn't one, chances are there's other parents that are also looking for support in your area. So, be the change. Don't always wait for someone else to start something. If there's a need, go ahead and start a support group. The people will come.
Right, absolutely. And we have to do that as advocates. As advocates, it means that you're taking on that role of research and finding out information so that you have that for yourself, but you have it for others if it's needed. Right. And if we are not the voice, nothing does change at all. But we had Anne Marie on, and she has the nonprofit for Down syndrome. So there are associations everywhere, and sometimes there's national associations. Like the ARC of Tennessee is also a national, it's ARC. There's the national one as well as one for each state. And then you have more, we have our individualized ones as well. But you just have to research and look. It is out there. Help is out there, and if you don't find it at first, keep looking, keep researching, keep asking, keep calling, keep knocking down those doors, and you will, you'll find help. You'll find other like-minded parents. Because as you and I have said before, this is not something that is only in one area of the country or a certain amount of household income, or a certain age even. It's not. It's everywhere. It's all over the world, So right. There is help and there is support, and you need to reach out. And, if somebody's watching on the replay here, just write us a message. Hey, I live here. Where do you think the best place is for me to look? And we'll answer you on that. We might even be able to look it up. I don't, but to help.
Well, the idea with this conversation that we've had today is to spark the conversation, to get people to talk about it. And so if you have any questions, we can help you then. Please put your questions down in the comment section and let us know what your questions are. And perhaps if you have something that's a burning question that we didn't cover today, then let us know as well, because we can plan that for a future episode. Because every week we'll try and touch on something, a different aspect. Sometimes we'll continue with a particular conversation because it's such a big one. Like this, for example, it's quite a big conversation. So we may do a series of them. But if you've got anything specific to do with special needs education, then please feel free to drop that in the comments. Mary, do you have any closing comments for us?
Just, you have to stand up for your child. You have to be the voice of your child, and don't give up. If somebody tries to, if the school doesn't listen, the school doesn't hear you, keep fighting, keep pushing forward, because there are surprising miracles that happen, and you might be that mom or that caregiver that brings something new into that school, a service that for children, or federally funded, some money that can come in. I mean, you never know when you start a journey of becoming an advocate, the change that you can make. And definitely surround yourself with other parents that are in the same situation or similar, because a group together is very powerful. And we need that support. I mean, a lot of these parents have, I think, PTSD from parenting. I mean, it's the stress from it is unbelievable for some families and situations. And so the only way to get through is to have support.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much to those of you who have joined us live today. And again, please post your questions in the comments and we'll get back to them later. Mary, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much and look forward to chatting to you again next week.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to it as well. And we have a teacher we're going to be speaking with, aren't we?
Yes, we look forward to that and we'll have some more details following on that shortly. So from me, Bridgetti Limbanda in Cape Town in South Africa, I'm going to say goodbye for now and have a great day further.
Bye, everybody from Tennessee and the United States. It's Mary Jackson.